You're listening to the Good Question Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Our goal is to make each of our guests exclaim, that's a good question. I don't know the answer. Because when that happens, it means you, the listener, may be inspired to learn more beyond the interview and to ask great questions yourself that lead to new insights. In this podcast, we cover historical and current anthropology, comparative religion, and history. Welcome, and let's get started.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Good Question Podcast. My guest today is Darnell Lamont Walker. He's the author of a book called Never Can Say Goodbye, The Life of a Death Doula and the Art of a Peaceful End. So I think it's going to be a really interesting call. So welcome, Darnell. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, how did you, most people don't want to talk about death and they rather avoid it, but why do you embrace it? And why did you write this book? And why do you do what you do?
Yeah, right on. I was one of those kids who was I was so curious about everything. And I had a grandmother who did this work, not so much as work, but as just someone who took care of people. And growing up watching her do this repeatedly for friends, for family, it was sort of a thing that was just ingrained in me. I was going to school and holding grief circles at recess when a friend died. I started volunteering at a hospice when I was 13.
Wow.
And so it just kind of just worked its way into me. And even those things, like even the volunteering at the hospice and talking about death with my grandmother, the first time I helped someone at the end of life, I was 12, but none of these things kind of were related to me. Like I couldn't connect the dots at the time. It wasn't until many years later when I was talking to a friend because she was a hospice nurse, and I'm talking to her about my experiences with death. And she says, it sounds like all these things you're doing, sounds like you're a death doula. And I thought, well, what is that? So I look it up and I'm like, this is everything I've been doing since I was, from 9 until now. And this was about 10 years ago. We were having this conversation and I just sort of leaned into it. Like, up until that point, it was just, this is what people do. This is what humanity looks like. And then it became, I should lean into this. If it's something that I'm capable of doing, maybe I should do this for people with intention of doing. And so I just leaned into it, started actually listening to people who were going through whatever it was they were going through in life with grief and end of life and loss. Outside of death loss, we have experiences with relationships or losing jobs and things like that. And it just stuck, and then looking back, I'm like, oh, yeah, of course, all those things led me here.
It's weird stats, but how many people have you been with as they passed away?
It's hard to say. I would say people I've been with at least at the end of life would probably be close to not quite 100. I'd say not quite 100 as far as me actually being in the room, but people I've helped at the end of life, it's been thousands, whether it was anywhere between planning for their death, to, vigils, planning for the funeral, helping them tell their story, helping them write their obituary, advocating for them with their medical teams, or showing up right before that very end. So many people I've come maybe a week before just to answer questions that they needed. And so it's been thousands. I'd say at this point, it's probably about 5 a week. I get about 5 calls a week now from people who need a wide range of services.
Yeah, I just like to say to the audience, thank God there are people like you, because I don't think I would ever want to do that or deal with it, I don't know if people tell you that a lot, but thank the Lord for people like you.
I appreciate it, man. But I hear it all the time, and I think a lot, like even in my book, I talk a lot about how like being at the end of someone's life is one thing, but I think so many of us have done this work. On some level, whether it's, we all talk, the hot term is holding space now. I think so often we hold space for people, even when we didn't know they were going through something. Sometimes it's just being a presence in a room for someone, and we may not even know that they're going through something heavy. There have been people who've given me a smile on the train when I'm going through heavy grief, and that helped. So we've all done our part in this work on some level.
How many, I know it's again a weird question, but I'll tell you why, but how many people have you been with at the moment of their passing? Like how many deaths have you
That's
seen?
I'd say at the very moment, I would say at least about maybe about 50 or so at the moment of passing.
What are some of the things that you've seen in common as people are, I know that a lot of people will be like, oh, this is morbid stuff, but this is your work. So I hope you don't mind me asking, but
I don't mind at all.
What do you see?
Yeah. One thing I'd say that so many of my clients have had in common, and not even before they were clients, even just people who I've been with in the weeks before or what have you, they always, there's someone who comes back for them. It's like, it's very woo-woo stuff, but, I believe it. And we'll be having a conversation and they'll look over and start talking to their grandmother who, I don't see their grandmother in the room, but they're having a full conversation and they'll say, my grandma says she's coming to get me. And it's like, oh, okay. And by that, I know usually when they may take their last breath sometime soon, people want to tell their stories in the end. They start talking more, if they're capable of that, if they're able to do that. In their stories. Yeah. They want to share more. They want people to ask questions. They want to close. They want closure a lot of times. And for me, I try to facilitate that for them. I try to help them get as close to the end as the ending that they want as possible. I try to help them get there. But those are the common things I see so often. And I'm just always so grateful that I'm able to do that. And it's not always the case. Sometimes people will fight till the very end. It's not always this peaceful ending. Sometimes people will refuse to go until.
What does that look like when someone refuses to go?
Yeah, it looks like a fight. They're like, and will verbally say that I don't want to go. I don't want to die. Please don't let me die. And them holding on and until the body just gives up. And that's tough. Like it's really tough in those situations because life isn't fair often. And, there are some clients who get diagnosed and within 2 or 3 months, they went from being what they thought was perfectly healthy to their deathbed. And it's like, but I thought I still had 40 more years to go. And it's like, yeah, this is what we have. And it's like, but I'm not ready.
That's really tough.
So that's tough. Absolutely. And then just hearing like the regrets from someone's deathbed is hard a lot of times. And so working through that with them or trying to make sure that whatever message they have about that can get passed down to, their kids or their nieces and nephews or whoever's in the family that also needs to hear that message.
So I guess some people are angry, some are happy, some are fearful. Mm-hmm. Like what are some of the dominant emotions you see?
Yeah. For me and for my clients, I think there's always a level of uncertainty. And maybe there's a fear that comes with that, but sometimes it's not a heavy fear, like I don't want to go fear, but the fear of I'm going into a place I don't know that we've all experienced at some point. We've all experienced that. I don't know what's going to happen here, but let's see. So there's a little bit of fear, but the dominant emotion I'd say is just, there's a curiosity of what's going to happen. A lot of times I see the joy. I see there are people who say, no, I'm ready. I'm ready to make this happen. I'm ready for this next adventure. Let me go. And of course, those are the easier ones, like especially when you get clients who choose medical aid, some states have that option and I've suffered long enough. I can have control over this thing that most people don't have control over. And I'm grateful for that. And that loss of control brings that fear too. Especially when we live the life that we've been almost in control of, and you get to this ending that's going to happen, but you don't know how or when, or sometimes you don't even know why, but it's going to happen and you have no control of. So I also try to come and give a little bit of that control back as much as I can by asking these questions and coming in and saying, well, okay, listen, this is going to happen. How do you want this to go? And in that, sometimes we can find our way to joy and security in some way.
You said some people will see relatives right before they go, I guess. Is that very common? Does everyone see someone right before they go, or some people know?
I'd say at least 90% of the people I've been with. And I remember when I was 9 and my grandma's sister was dying, and she was always at the hospital with her, and she'd come back and talk to me about what was happening in the process. And my mom would do the same. And I remember my mom coming home from the hospital one night, and she said, and my my grandmother's sister, my aunt, her name was Greta. And so she says, Greta, she said she saw her mom. Her mom came to visit and said she was just getting her room ready for her. And I knew that her mom had died like 3 or 4 years before. And so I'm like, in my 9-year-old brain, I'm like, she saw her mom, like that, she saw a spirit in there, and she's coming back to get her. That must mean she's going to die soon. And so this was my first encounter with that. And then as I'm growing and talking to people who are losing loved ones and going to visit them at the end, this was such a common thing. I had a friend, her dad, and this is one of the questions I ask people. I say, who do you want to come back for you? And she asked her dad, she's like, who do you want to come back? He's like, I'd love to see my dog again. This dog I had when I was a kid. I'd love for the dog to come back. And she said when she was seeing in the hospital just right before he died, he looked over to the corner and he just said, no, not that dog. And it was like, wrong, but it come back. And it's like, oh, okay. But I see it with at least 90% of my clients. And I think it's such a wonderful moment that they have, that it's this, and you see them just go with peace. It's like this very peaceful washing over that happens.
Oh, that would help a lot. Yes. Sure. And that you're about to go and you're, afraid and all that. And then there's someone that that has been gone that's talking to you. It's like, shh. Exactly. Thank God there's a place to go and not nowhere,
Exactly.
Do you ever ask what they talk about with their relative and stuff and get any clue? Like what have you learned from that?
No, absolutely. I was the doula for a really good friend of mine when he was dying, and he was like me, he was very close to his grandma, who died just a couple years before he did. And so we'd sit in the room and talk, and he would just look over and just be in full conversation, like stop our conversation and just look over and start talking to his grandma. And so I'd be a part of him, like, so what are you talking about? He's like, well, she's right there. Can't you hear her? And I'm like, no, I can't. She's here for you. What's she saying? And he'd say, she's coming back for me. She said it's not my time yet, but she's going to come back soon, and she'll be coming back to walk me home. And it's so matter of fact. They talked about just wishes also. Like I had one client who talked to her mom about, I wish I had done more while I was here. And the mom said, no, you've done enough, and getting that affirmation, of I felt some insecurities around how I mothered my own children, how I did life in this body as a person, as a human. And the mom just says, the spirit of this mother is like, no, you did the work you were supposed to do, and can affirm that for her. And also just let her know that this next thing that's going to happen is going to be just as beautiful. And it's such an honor to see. Yeah, it's just such a beautiful moment for so many people.
How has it made you feel about yourself? I mean, are you a lot more comfortable with it, or still like observation?
It's crazy.
Do you know if you want to participate, or you're opting out, or what?
Yeah, like for me, I'm like, I want the full thing. I want, like, I've never been afraid of death. I absolutely don't want to die now. Like, I always say it would be crazy and terribly inconvenient for me to die at this moment. I do not want to die now, and I will put up a fight if I were on my deathbed now. But when the moment comes, and I hope it's a moment when I'm ready to go, I hope that I get that. I hope I get, my grandma comes back. If my mom dies before me and she's dead when I'm on my deathbed, I want her to come back. I want a party. I want everyone that I've loved before who died. I want them all to just be there and just say, yeah, come on, we'll take you there. And so it makes it easier for me. I've never been afraid of death, but that puts like a cherry right on top.
Yeah, definitely. Any surprising things come from these conversations, or is it all just kind of the same? Like, we're waiting for you, it's going to be good. Are there any commonalities in what they say, or like you said, unusual things that people have said they've heard?
I haven't heard anyone say anything that surprised me. I mean, it's always been love, and just this welcome party sort of thing. I haven't heard anything that shocked me so much, except for, like, I've seen, I've heard and I've experienced where people have had their pets come back, and it's just, one client who was told that, her grandmother always told her when her pet died when she was a kid, pets don't make it to heaven. And so when she was dying, she's like, oh, they do. My dog's here, and cool. So it was, oh, good for you. Good for you. And so that was sort of surprising, but just so it made me happy to to know that and to be able to share that with other people who may say, well, I hope, because this is a question I ask everyone. I ask my friends, I ask family, strangers, like, well, I've had clients that see people that come back for them. Who do you want to come back for you? And it's sort of a way into conversation with a lot of people. And they say, oh, I haven't thought about that, but I'd love for my dad. I want it to be my grandma or whoever that is. And so I'm able to sit down that, oh, yeah, people have seen their pet.
What about, have you ever been at the deathbed of someone that was like a real bad person? And was their experience any different?
And
again, it's my words, bad person, but like, I don't know, so most people's estimate, so-and-so, let's say it was like, just real bad, and now they're going.
I definitely feel what you're saying. I have not in a way, but in a roundabout way, like I have a older cousin who was in hospice and he was dying and he wasn't an awful person, but he wasn't a great dad, right? And to my one of my favorite cousins. And so when he was going, a lot of what he wanted to do was just apologize. Like it was so much just sitting on him and so much regret and so much that he didn't want to die with. And so just being able to let that out and answer whatever questions she may have had that she didn't even want to ask him because they had grown so far apart. And being able to be like the liaison between the two really helped him and helped, ease that, even though he didn't want to be forgiven. He just wanted to get that off of his chest. And so I do see a lot of people who we think, who may not have done a great job in this life want to not die with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any, I don't know, any like one-time things you've seen or just things you couldn't explain?
Oh, yeah. Well, at the deathbed, not so much from there, but I do like a lot of plant medicine ceremonies. So like mushrooms, ayahuasca. And so I've had experiences there when it comes to like grief and working and how I move forward working with clients. I can get into that for sure.
Right before we get into that, what about if someone's of faith or they're not of faith? Like, I'm sure you've been there with people that have no faith and some people that are very.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I've had clients one client who had converted to Islam, but his family, they were very adamant about not giving him a Muslim funeral or Muslim burial, even though he's still alive and well at that point and able to voice his decision and his concerns and listen to them saying, we're not going to do that. We're going to have this Christian funeral for you. And so I have to come in and advocate for that because I don't come in with my beliefs at all or any expectations. I come in ready to assist the client however I can. And I will advocate for you however I can, whatever you need done. And so it was me and him fighting against his family to get him this thing that he wanted. And to see how people just did not want to honor who he was hard. It was very hard. And even though it seemed that they may have given in, they didn't. When he died, they gave him the funeral that they wanted to give him. But thankfully, we were able to get through to a relative who made sure that his Muslim brothers were able to honor him in the way he wanted, aside from the family. And so when I come in, it's I'm not here to push anything on anyone. I'm here to believe what you believe. Say this is what you want. Okay, let's do that.
But have you seen if someone's like an atheist, do they still see people from the other side, or only if they're a faith of some kind?
Oh yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if I've had an atheist. It's not something that came up, but maybe, maybe. I don't know if I've ever had one though.
Yeah, if you've been around at least 50, you probably, yes. But...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do have people who don't bring up faith at all. It actually comes up less than it doesn't. And so, it's usually just coming in and saying, this is how I want to go. Like faith doesn't come up. There's so many, it's more so about the connections I had. How will this go for me? And how can I get this death? And how can I be comfortable? But faith is not it's usually not part of the conversation. I'd say less than 5% of the time.
How do people even know to ask for someone like you? Was it offered like in hospice commonly, or?
Sometimes there are hospice nurses who will recommend and say, oh, there is a service you can use, because there are things that hospice nurses and even hospice nurses are starting to come over to this side, just because they want to be a little more involved with their patient, or with these people who are at the end of their life, where it's not so formal and structured and, you're a number here and we're just doing this. This is part of the business. They want it to be more personal. So there are hospice nurses who recommend me. There are regular nurses. I had one of my last clients was in the children's hospital, and the nurses who were taking care of him called me because his family wasn't coming around. And thankfully, like now it's a lot of word of mouth. People are finding out about this. The show The Pit just wrote an episode where a Death Doula was on the episode. And so more and more people are like, oh, well, what is this? What do you do? And so they are calling, they're reaching out, and it's great. And more people are getting certified as well and learning how to do the work or how they can do the work with the skill set or talents that they have.
And why do you do this? What does it do for you?
I don't want people to die alone. I don't want people to go through this thing alone. I don't think it should be that way. After volunteering at the hospice when I was a kid, I knew that was going to be a big, like just being alone at some of the hardest points of your life. And so I'm able to make sure that doesn't happen. And that makes me feel good. Like that fills me up. So this work allows me to achieve that goal.
Okay. How do you feel while you're helping somebody versus after they pass? Like when someone passes, do you feel just like a sense of relief or, like, I don't know, what is the transition period for, again, when someone you're helping is passed? What do you feel like once that happens?
Sometimes it is a sense of relief for them. Sometimes it's, good for them, because there are some people who are suffering. And even if they aren't suffering, it's like I've always looked at death as like this next great adventure. So when it happens, it's, good for them for going on that next great thing. But sometimes it's hard. The client I talked about where the nurses called me from the children's side, he was 21. And so that makes me sad, like losing him at 21, him suffering so much at the end of his life, and just he didn't get to live the life at all that he dreamed of at some point. None of us expect to die that soon. At 21, you're supposed to be invincible, and so I still grieve. Like I still grieve a lot of the patients, but the overall sense is good for them. Good for them for going on that. Good for them for going through that. Good for them for making the decision to get to the end the way they wanted to, or as close to the way they wanted to as possible. And I'm glad I could help them do that.
Do you ever have any, supernatural experiences where like any of those people come to you in dreams, or have you seen any of them, or, something like an object's there that that it had to be them?
Once that's happened, where one client came back and to just dance. It was like, I want to dance. And it was kind of not so much even in a dream state. It was just this very real moment that was like, I want to dance, tell everyone I'm okay, and just dance. So I'm standing up in the middle of my place dancing, and it was like, okay, I'm glad I could do this.
Oh, wow. Did that affect you a lot when that happened?
No, not at all. I was extremely happy that I had that moment and was able to call his loved ones and tell them what happened, and, give them a moment too. That was like, oh, wow, that sounds exactly like something he would do. That was absolutely. And so it's like this, this joyous moment in the middle of like very hard grieving, because it was still kind of fresh. It was maybe 2 weeks after he died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Does it feel like a burden on you? Or is it a shifting burden that eases and then gets heavier, or does it not feel like a burden to you? Oh, no, it doesn't feel like a burden at all. Just, I'm glad I'm so happy to be able to do this. And I'm so honored that, they trust me to do this work with them. So it's never felt like a burden to me. How do you feel like it's changed you as a person and how you relate to your family and your loved ones and all that, and, everyone? Oh, yeah. Like watching folks go through this and being with them at the end has really shaped how I live, like listening to their regrets at the end, even. It's like, I don't want to go through that, or I like the way this person lived their life. I should take a couple of notes from that. And so each client, I pick up something, because of them or in spite of what they did. So it really carries me. It helps me face my own mortality. I do that every day, which then I honor that. I make decisions based on that a lot of times. Like, oh, well, I am going to die at some point, and I will, before I get to my deathbed, like some of these folks, if I'm blessed enough to have a deathbed, then how will I approach? I want to go out with a bang. I want to die empty. Like so many people I meet die with so much just trapped inside
died and things they didn't get out. And I don't want to do that based on so many that I've sat with. And so I work a little harder to be better at this life because of that.
Yeah, that's really cool. You said you do plant medicine. Is that to help people that like have psychological distress about dying, or is it just in general people that just, I don't know, is it always existential anxiety, or what is it that you help people with?
Oh yeah, sometimes yeah. There are people who have a deep fear of death. It's just as deep as the fear of public speaking. I think death is like the second biggest fear, and so there are people who deal with that, and they want to. And so having these conversations, I think, they're very important. I know they're very important. Helping them build community around that, helping getting to the root of why they're afraid of that. A lot of times it was, I saw, I remember when my mom died and how bad that was for. I remember when so and so died unexpectedly and nothing was planned, and so it's like, oh well, what if you could plan, or what if you could, what if it didn't have to be so hard? And of course we don't know, but if we can plan for that anyway, for it to not be so hard, then why not do it? And so I try to work with them, meet them where they are and work them through it the best way we can.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So what motivated you to write your book? What message are you trying to deliver to people? Or is it just that it'll get your message out to a lot more people than ones that just know you personally in real life?
Oh, yeah. It wasn't even my intention. I wrote an article for LA Times years ago, and the woman who became my agent, Lane Clark, she read it and messaged me on LinkedIn and said, hey, you ever think about writing a book? I'd love to represent you. And I say, oh, well, yeah, I have stories of clients I've sat with and my own life stories. We can talk about it. And she said, okay, send me some sample chapters and let's see what we can do. And I sent her maybe 3 sample chapters, and we just started pitching it. And Harper was the first call we took, and immediately just took it off the table. And I said, I guess I have to write a book. And then it was me just sitting down and remembering the people that I've been with. But I would sit down and they just pour out. And so it wasn't tough. It wasn't the intention, but I'm so glad it happened.
Do you say you're getting about 5 calls a week? So like every working day, pretty much you get a call that someone needs your help? Yeah.
And I mean, and again, it ranges from like what that need is, but at least I'd say at least 5 calls a week. Or calls or direct messages or, something on social media, whatever it is, but at least 5.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as you get more well-known, what if it grows to 20, 50, or 100,
more and more people want to talk about it. I think we've all seen what happens when we don't talk about death. We see the fear around it. More people just want to live better lives. And I think we do that by facing that mortality, by saying, well, we are going to die. What can I do now to make sure I get to the end happy that I lived a life, or happy with the life that I've lived? And so more and more people are coming and just saying, I want to do this. And so everyone's not at the end of life that calls me, but some people are seemingly have 50 years left, but they just want to plan ahead.
Oh, so people are calling you to schedule you for when they need?
Oh, yeah. There are parents that'll call and say, when my parents died, we fell apart, and I don't want to do that to my children. So what do I need to do? It's like, oh, well, let's talk about, advanced directives, and let's talk about planning. Let's talk about what goes to who and how do you want this thing to go? Where will you, do you want to be cremated or a traditional funeral? Like, how do you want the end to go? And we can start there.
That's typically interesting. Or some of them are emergencies, I guess. Like so-and-so is close, you better come.
Oh yeah. Some are very much, I don't know how much longer we have. Do you have time to come here? Or could you recommend, or could we talk about, what I can do with the body, where I could take this body, or what, and it's such a range.
I haven't seen, I've seen some death, not nearly as much as you, but when someone passes away, it's like the body is, it's just the body. It's like they're not there anymore. Their spirit's gone. There's nothing animating the body. It's like, I know it's weird. It's like a real quiet around them. Like they're almost like, I'm not saying it to be derisive, but they're like a piece of furniture. There's no life in them, and I can feel that there's no life in them. Is that what do you experience when someone passes? They're gone, but is the body them or not? No, that's exactly it. Like you can when you're in the room, a lot of times you can feel when they have gone. Like I've sat with, a lot of times I'm not alone in the room with them. It's the family too. And so you could feel that, and the family will say, oh, I think they just left, or I felt their spirit pass through me as they left out of this room.
And then we all sit there and we all recognize that this is just a body now and still, worthy of respect. And so a lot of times families want to wash the body or, there's no need to rush at that point. It's just, okay, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to hold their hand one more time? And some people say, no, they're not there anymore. I just I'll wash it and then I'll call the coroner or I'll call the funeral home. But that's the usual case in my experience. It's just a body at this point.
And it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's wild to feel. Like you feel it, like how it just shifts that, it doesn't take long. It's like as soon as it happens, it's like, oh yeah, they're gone. This is it.
You said some people have felt the spirit go through them.
Oh yeah.
How did they describe that? Has it happened to you?
I've never felt that. But I felt where, they just left. Like I felt that, but I've had so many family members say, I felt that, or they're just sitting there and they're like, they're dead. I just felt it, and we'll check and they're gone. And it's like, and they'll say, just felt like this incredible feeling. One person described it as taking like an IV painkiller, like that, just that feeling of sweet surrender, and it's like, yeah, okay, right on. They're like, it's a beautiful moment.
I guess when you're there and the family's there, is it, I guess it helps the families too. They don't, do they react? It seems like it prepares them. So I guess my guess is they don't react as strongly, like all of a sudden wailing and crying. They seem to be, from your description at least so far, like kind of calm about it and accepting and practical.
Yeah, that's usually the typical response. I mean, when it happens, it's sort of this moment that we've prepared for. It doesn't make sometimes it doesn't make the grief any less. It's just this moment that we've prepared for. And so when it happens, it's kind of like a very quiet moment, like, okay, well, what do we do now? And it's trying to figure that out. And sometimes that might be shock or just confusion because you go from this person who was so big and so alive in your life to it's now just a body laying here with nothing inside. And it's kind of, I think I'll just stay in here and be silent for a while. And so that's the typical response I get with families that are there.
Interesting. Has it changed like your faith? Has it increased it, decreased it, changed it? It's up to you if you want to say it.
Oh yeah, no, it hasn't changed anything for me. Like it's like everything that not everything, but most of the things that I believe now are what I've always believed, just in the beauty of this moment for everyone. Like it hasn't increased or decreased anything about my faith whatsoever. I'm a spiritual person. I don't follow a religion. And so spiritually, I'm just grateful to be there and to see it happen the way that it does, that we are able to be there for someone when they go, whether it was very difficult for them or peaceful. They didn't do it alone, and I'm grateful for that.
Has there ever been any negative experience, like someone appeared that they didn't want to see you, or
only the time when the wrong dog showed up for the
that's not so bad either.
when the dog that the dad didn't want to see. But no, they, outside of, fighting until the very end, outside of, I do not want to die. This is not what I want to do, which, that's not an uncommon thing, but there hasn't been something that's been completely negative in my experience. There have been clients that I've had who were under medicated when they should have been comfortable. And so you see how that really messes with them in the end. But I do my best to make sure that before they go, they get to the point of comfort where they should be.
But there's never been like a movie where like hands come out of the ground and drag the person down the hell screaming or anything.
Oh, I've never seen that. No.
Thank God. Good.
Thank God. I may get out of this work. That may be my last day in this job. But no, I've never seen that, thankfully. But it's like in that final moment, it always just looks so peaceful.
That's cool. Has anyone ever asked for someone that's not a family member that appeared to them, or has anyone appeared again that's not a family member?
Oh yeah, like there have been friends, there have been people that they haven't thought about in years. They're like, oh, I was talking to someone I worked with like 20 years ago came by. And it's like, huh? What?
Really?
What? Yeah. And it's like, but I always think it's people who somehow, like whether we knew it or not, impacted our life. You know, there's so many people who played such roles in our life, in our lives that were so beautiful and moments that we didn't even notice, just ordinary moments. And in the end, I think a lot of this comes back to us, you know, things that didn't make sense when we were 20. Suddenly we're at the end of our life and it's like, oh, that's what that means. And sometimes people were a part of that. And so in the end, sometimes those people who were a part of that come back.
Any like historical figures or just random people that they know only?
Yeah, I've only experienced it with people that they know.
Okay. That'd be interesting if some like historical figure came back, like Moses or something. You know?
That'd be wild. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what, I don't know, is it, you want to get the message out? Where else do you want to go with this? Is it, I know it's not like some entrepreneurial thing probably, but
no.
what do you hope this evolves into?
Yeah, like just exactly what it is. Like I don't run it as a business. I haven't figured out how to run it as a business. I can't possibly charge people who are dying. I can't do it. I mean, I know, and I have nothing against the people that do that, but for me, this is what I've been doing since I was a kid. And so how I run it, once I found out what it was that I was doing, is no different from what I was doing before that. It's just, if I have the time, if I have the space, the mental capacity, you know, to do this for you, then I will be there. And so I just wanted to keep going in that direction. I love being able to do that for people. I think, you know, if we can do it, let's do it. You know, in the book, I talk about a woman I met on the train who was just heavy in grief, obviously in grief. And, you know, I put a note on her table and told her if she wanted to talk, you know, I'm sitting right here. And we ended up talking on the entire ride to where we were both going. And she was going to see her dad who was dying in the hospital. And sometimes that's the work, you know, sometimes it's just that. If I can offer an hour of my time to talk, to help you through this very tough moment, then why not do it? So I'm loving how it's going now. I don't see it changing. I don't want it to be this grand business idea.
Yeah. Well, how do friends and family interact with you maybe differently from when you first started this?
You know, they don't. I've always been like, I've always been that kid in the family that's just, oh, well, that sounds about right. Like, I don't think there's anything I could do that would shock them. And so they're just like, oh, okay. So, and my family, I come from a family, they don't want to talk about death. It was my grandmother and she died, and my mom and my stepdad. And so we will talk about it. We update each other often on how we want to die, you know, what needs to happen, who needs to be contacted, what will the obituary say. My son as well. But for the most part, no one wants to talk about this. Even, you know, my family, who we have a death doula available to talk about it anytime you want, they won't do it. And so, but I will sneak them into conversations more and more until I get it out of them. And that's fine. But they will avoid it. They avoid me. They avoid it when they know I'm coming around to talk about it. So not much has changed.
Interesting. Well, I'm not sure what else to ask you, I guess, you know, except about the plant medicine stuff. But is that, I guess, another service that you're there to help people with, or is it just for you personally?
Yeah. I mean, both. You know, it's a way to help ease that fear as well, and bring people in and to face those fears, to come in with their intention and get those things answered. So it's helped me in the work. And
well, actually, can having an experience like that preview what's going to happen to you? Like, you know, if you're, I don't know, again, you're just really worried about death. If you, if you have a mushroom session or some other kind of ayahuasca, whatever, can you ask that, you know, you'll find out early, you know, what's going to happen to relieve your worry?
I mean, you could ask. I've never asked how I'm going to go or when's it going to happen. I'd rather I'd rather have that be a surprise. I don't know if it would answer.
Or just what it's going to be like, you know, like, hey, give me some comfort. You don't have to tell me too much, but you know.
Absolutely. I've done that where it's just been, what I've seen was this sort of ceremony where it was like, when you die, you will be a part of everything. You will be a part of the plants and the animals and just love and this human collective consciousness. And it was just a very peaceful moment. And it's made, you know, and by the time I even got to that point, like I felt that already. And so it hasn't eased my fear. I mean, I not eased my fear. I just haven't had a fear of death, ever. And so, but it was more of an affirmation for me that, oh yeah, this is what I thought would happen. This is how I felt it would go. So good.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So what do you want people to take away from this this podcast? A suggestion to read your book, or like what message do you have for listeners that maybe I haven't asked you?
No, absolutely. Absolutely read the book. But more than that, I think I really want people to walk away and to knowing that it doesn't take anyone special or any special training or anything to do this work. I think we've all, on some level, have done it. And again, it might not have been for death loss. It could have been for just helping someone through the grief of anything or the loss of anything. And to not put any, assumptions or expectations on it, but just being present with someone in a hard moment is all you need, just to be present and listen and be a witness for them. And that's what's important. That's what I want people to take away from, my work, from this book, and just from what we're talking about today.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, thanks so much for your time and explaining all this patiently and being here. It's been a good call.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
If you like this podcast, please click the link in the description to subscribe and review us on iTunes.
Thank you for listening to the Good Question Podcast. Please email support@thegoodquestionpodcast.com if you have any referrals to great guests for us to interview. Visit thegoodquestionpodcast.com to hear more interviews. And please help us spread the word by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to this podcast.